No, that's okay if you share because someone may ping me. That's okay.
Okay, one analysis workspace. This
Just a quick preface for those joining us for the first time. What we do is we take questions from the community as well as those that come up within our own work experiences and the individuals that we talk to within our analytics communities, and some of those questions we try to address them in these calls. The like Ivana said, the chat is always open, so you can put questions that matter to you currently or are hot for you, and we will try our best to answer them. But in the meanwhile, we have a few questions that we've queued up, and Sumit is going to share screen, and then we can walk through those questions. And then, oppose that, if you still have time, we can cover other questions or like come back to them later if we don't get time. Uh, I guess that was it. Sumit, are you able to share your screen?
I shared it. Not sure if you're
And now
able.
it's showing up. It's showing up now.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, thanks, Dave, for that. We can get started. The first question which I see in my screen is about page name not captured consistently from digital data, and basically user is saying, yeah, is my screen visible by the way? Yeah,
Yeah, it is. It is.
excellent. Yeah, yeah. So why does Adobe Analytics sometimes record page URL instead of the data layer page name? Could this be a timing issue, and would a processing rule help to fix this? So this is a timing issue, yes, because what happens is like sometimes when your rule triggers, that time your data layer, whatever it's coming from digital data or any other data layer, the data layer is not ready, so value is not picked up by the rule, and hence Adobe Analytics defaults page name to page URL. So basically, you get all the page URL in your report if it is not picked up correctly from your data layer. So how, especially on single page applications, so how you can fix it is how I do is like basically make sure whatever data layer you have for page name that is present before your rule triggers, and if it doesn't work, you can do something like uh, I can give an example where what you can do exactly to make data layer available. So simply put some condition saying that your if your uh, data layer exists, then only trigger this rule. So something like this. Let me show you very quickly a rule which I have just now updated. Yeah, this one. So for example, if yeah, let me share here. So you can say, if your data layer for whatever it's coming from, and if it matches this regex, which means basically we are saying if it exists. So this is nothing but a condition, and this value is digital data, maybe digital data dot page name or whatever data layer the page name which I am extracting from a data element, and if I put this condition, this rule will only be triggered when this page name is available. So in that way, you can easily solve this kind of issue. So that was it. Then we have. I hope that answers your question. And obviously, processing rule can fix it also, but processing rule will not fix the timing issue. So it's better to fix it through your tag manager. So the next question for I think for you, Dave, is what are some ways you can address bot traffic? And this is like very important questions, especially for analytics user. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think some of the times that we think of traffic that comes to the site could be like knowledge bots and could be aggregator bots that help us make certain decisions around our buying activities. And there are some bots that are repetitive, are kind of malicious, or even just not legal. So sometimes defining the difference between both of them, and distinguishing them and taking separate actions for both these traffics is difficult. But to get started, like if you have not on your side have not done anything to get started, one of the options is to kind of go to your admins. If you're not the product admin, go to your product admin and ask them to set up the IAB bot rules, which is kind of like um, a set of bots and spiders list, which the IAB, like this International Advertising Bureau, has set up. And it will look for these bots and spiders and these signatures and kind of uh, s- detect this traffic which is coming from these bots and spiders and crawlers, and mark them as bot traffic. So when you enable this traffic, it's not going to be available in your data. This data is going to sit in a separate report and it's not going to be available. So when you are making these updates, you could see uh, macro trends where your data may drop if you have extensive bot traffic coming to your site. So it's good to know and to annotate that in your data when you make these updates. If you're enabling the bot rules, which Adobe uses as one of the option, the other option that Adobe gives you at the admin side in Adobe Analytics is to update your own set of IPs, which you would have identified as a certain bot traffic that you don't want to report on. And naming them correctly and using the right labels would help you identify that. Now, when I say identify, you would need to go into a separate report which is under your project templates. Like if you see in Workspace itself, if you go back on projects and templates, you will see in the templates there is something called as bot pages template. In that report, you should be able to see a list of all of these bots that you have enabled. Sorry, these bots that you've identified, and you have named them and uploaded them. So you can bulk upload these conditions in the product admin side. And in CJA, there are other options where while you cannot, you can enable the IAB bot rules in the data stream, but you'll have to upload your user agents or your IPs, which uh, you would want to identify as bot traffic through certain rules. But to start with, I would suggest enabling the rule, and then second step would be to add your own custom bots which you have identified. There are different ways you can identify them, looking at at your data and trends over time and seeing where some of these unexplained spikes come from. So that's one option. And then the last thing I would suggest is to understand your bot traffic, what's the volume you're seeing today, and what measures can be taken. There is another option called IP exclusion, but IP exclusion is like you would not count that under, and it not be labeled as a bot traffic in the bot traffic report. So that's the difference between both of the bot IP exclusion and sorry IP exclusion and the bot rules. Um, I think that is some of the ways that you can address some of the bot traffic today. And additionally, when you work in CJA, the same IAB rules, you would have to add that in your schema, and it would identify as one and zero, where one would be bot traffic and zero would be not bot traffic, and then you can filter out using those name value pairs. Um, we don't see any questions in the chat, so we're just going to keep going down the list. Another one of Sumit, and I would recommend if you have anything to add, please just come off mute and we can talk about it a little bit. But I'll just keep going through the next question. The next one
Sure.
that we had was, how do we understand the volume of traffic coming in from AI sources? And I don't know if some of us have seen this, but obviously we know a lot of LLMs are looking at our sites and how we understand that traffic. One of the newest releases from Adobe is they have identified or bunched a lot of their traffic into something called as a referrer type report. So if you search for a referrer type over here, Sumit, if you don't mind just driving this, can you just search for referrer type in the components on the left hand side? No, sorry, in these components itself. Yeah, over here. Just if you can search for referrer type, and then if you can, you know, you can just use the arrow and then like just show it from there. It's right there. Yeah. So if you use the referrer type, and you can see this conversational AI tools. So this is a new addition from Adobe where you can see the traffic coming from all of these sites. These Gen AI sites where a lot of traffic is coming to your site from these channels, and you would want to know what that volume looks like. So first step would be to pull a report and check what that looks like. The second would be like, if you want to, this is something that Adobe provides. The second step would be like, oh, you want to look at this individually, use the referer domain, and then do a dot AI as your filter, and then you can look at individually what those referrals look like, and which of these you know LLMs are l- actually adding traffic to you, and what the data looks like. Another option is to, once you've looked at both of these reports, you want to see and compare. I would suggest putting either option like what we have here on the screen, these texts. Either you use a segment built based on your referer domain is equals to .ai, or your referer type report equals to conversational AI tools, and then either look at them and compare against the rest of your site to see how the user visitor behavior is different when traffic comes in from these sources versus the rest of the sources, right? So you want to look at that and see how trends are changing, and that helps you understand what your next step is. Some have also gone one step further to add it as a marketing channel, but that is up it's up to us how we want to frame this conversation around the traffic that's coming from these sources. Sumit, I don't know if you've lost network or connection, but we don't see your screen anymore. Then I'm going to hit pause here for a quick second. Sumit, would you add anything? Is there anything else we're doing?
Is it regarding the AI one, the refer type? This one we discussed, or this one?
Yeah,
Sorry.
we are still on the third question. If
Third
there's
question.
any,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I see in the chat, Mandy had mentioned that you could also use a virtual report suite on your bot traffic and report that out separately and exclude them in that
Yes.
way as well. So that's also another good option. It When it comes to bot traffic, it really depends on how tight you want to create your your segments, or how strict you want to be with those conditions that you apply. So you could totally remove it from your data set, keep it in your data set, put it as a segment, socialize a segment, or even do it like with a virtual report suite. Keep the data, don't get rid of the data, but just have it separately in a virtual report suite. So there are options, and it would really come down to like how you really want to report, and it depends on every firm and every reporting team's culture and the way we build those the way we look at our data, right? So it comes down to like, oh, I'm very interested in volume, so you don't want to remove that bot traffic, you want to keep it in there. Whereas someone would be like, we want to see really qualified data, then it would mean removing it completely and seeing it only in the bot templates or seeing it in a virtual report suite. Okay. The last one we have on here is, when I use the Adobe debugger, why do I sometimes not see certain evars in the image request, but I see it in reporting? So a lot of times, and this is we're just in deployment. We have some QA team members who have been testing for the first time who joined our team, and just sharing the backstory of why this question is something that I teed up into this is they reported a bug saying that, hey, this if var is not showing up when it was as part of the acceptance criteria to show up, right? And then we had to talk to them and explain to them that the if var is not collected at image request, it is later available using a processing rule. So essentially, what is happening is we pass that value into a prop, and then we go back in the processing rules, and we say like pass this value from the prop into an ivar. So while the team was searching for an ivar in the image request, they were not seeing it, but actually the data was available in reporting. Now, why I bring this up is with CJA, a lot of what you see available in the CJA reporting is a lot of ETL that is happening in the background. We have a lot of options with derived fields of creating your duplicating dimensions, dimensions and creating them into metrics. So a lot of flexibility that comes with CJA also enables, also warrants for us to start doing a lot of our QA in CJA in the reporting side, because that's what your end user is going to see. So if you're just going to do a debugger test, that would not suffice. You would, because a lot of the name value pairs are going to be processed and created into derived fields, and you would want to see the end outcome in a CJ test template environment in a data view. So while we may or may not use processing rules in CJ, it depends on your implementation. Uh, a lot of that is not going to be available. Like what you see in your debugger may be completely different when you see it in your CJ reporting data view. So for us, we have had to change our QA protocols to include CJ based data view validation for for a QA process. So that's some of the things that has changed for us. I think that was it. Sumit, anything you would add across the topics or anything else that
Yeah,
you mind?
I think one of the thanks, Dave, for this. Really useful and insightful. One of the hot topic again is again migrating. I see a lot of discussion towards migrating to web SDK from simply app measurement or AT.js. And I just wanted to share this one article which I find very nicely documented in Experience League. So if you not sure if you can see
Yeah,
my
we
is
can.
my screen
Yeah.
visible? Yeah. So if you look at the Experience League, there is an article over there about edge data collection concepts. And in this one, it's very nicely explained what previously when you have to do migration to Web SDK, everything has to be done in the XTM object. Now there is this new data object which is created specifically for Adobe Analytics or Adobe Target Experience Cloud Solutions. Um, XTM is just for AEP data, like if you want to send it to Customer Journey Analytics, RTC, CDP, AJO, then yes, we have to make a good schema and good use of XTM. But if it is just simply migration from app measurement to Web SDK, if you don't have AEP, for example, then you can still use this data object and send it to AEP Web SDK, because Web SDK is kind of like free as of now. It used to be called Alloy. Now it's the Web SDK. It's free, and you don't need AEP or CGA to use it. And what it means is like how you can use this data object in your implementation is quite straightforward. You have similar kind of implementation, like you used to set variables, then send beacon, then clear variables. So there are like in AEP extension, there is something called update variables, where you just follow the similar kind of EVAR prop mapping, how you used to set variables in your extension, and then it just creates a data object, and you can see here events, EVAR, everything is listed as it is. So there is no change here, and it's quite straightforward migration. And all you need is like instead of looking at b/ss in your beacon, this time you need to look at interact call, which is a call to edge network, and that's how you will see the XTM and data object created with all key value pair. So same thing for Adobe Target. You will have a target kind of in data object. You will have a target created, and within that target, you will the parameter, the file parameter, whatever you are passing. So it's quite very nice article. I recommend you to go through it, and you can test your migration if you just want to migrate to a web SDK from your traditional app measurement and AT. Any other question? Anything you want to add, Dave, on this one?
No, I was just going to ask you to pop the link in the chat if you haven't. That would
Sure.
help the others who are on the call. But yeah, there's a lot to consider when you are building out your schema, and whether so like what Sumit is talking about is to kind of like transfer over your existing implementation in a way. Uh, for some, it depends on your use case. While some have really old, like our implementation on one of our sites is about 10 years old. So we use the migration from A to CJA as an opportunity to also review our total tagging implementation and start from scratch. So it is a very bold move, and it takes a lot of change management and communication across stakeholders. But what we did was we did a lot of engagement with our communities to explain to them what moving over from the same existing EVAR and prop concepts and moving them over to a name value pairs and having them look at it from that perspective helped us a lot. And also there will be resistance if you're moving away completely from props and ivars, and you're just going to have name value pairs and you're going that route. But I would suggest that if you're doing it, might as well now is the only time you can change the way you do it. So for those who are in the starting phase of thinking about CJA, look at it as a like a refresh of your implementation as well, not just to just plug and play again. I don't know if you have any questions in the chat. I know Mandy and Ivana have been covering a lot of the chatter here, but if there are no questions, um, we can close early. Does that work?
I guess not a question, more like a comment from me. This article you're sharing, Sumit, is really interesting because I am working on a WebSDK implementation at the moment. But I guess
Hmm.
a question I would have, like, is this solution more like an interim, as you said, like if you're migrating, is because I don't think it's necessarily something you should do if you're doing a fresh implementation of WebSDK. Perhaps that's better to be, future proof and go with the XDM object rather than this kind
Yeah,
of.
that's a good question, Iona. I think answer is like it depends. Do you already have Adobe Analytics tagging like with app measurement, then and you are simply migrating to Web SDK without using AEP or CJA, then this is very important. And then this is useful, yes. But if you are having CJA or AEP and you are doing a fresh implementation for those, then obviously you need to start from scratch, like a schema creation. This article which I am sharing, it doesn't even need you to create a schema creation. All you need is like very simply whatever you have set variables, send beacon and clear variables. You can just use AEP extension. Obviously, you need to create data stream for your analytics service and use the report suite into it. But then in the update variables, it's very much similar, like you are setting all these prop evar and it is automatically created. So the short answer to your question is, for fresh implementation, when when you don't have app measurement or anything, and you want to implement fresh AEP Web SDK, taking CGA and AEP into consideration, then yes, you have to go through XTM schema and build from there, start from there. But if you have already done the existing implementation, and you want to just migrate to AEP Web SDK, just use the AEP SDK extension, and yeah, this data object will automatically created if you use the update variables.
Awesome, thank you for that. And I think, yeah, I agree with Mandy. The CJA work is really interesting. I don't know, Deb, if you could like tell us a bit about it. I've never done it, so it's yeah, I'm keen to understand more.
So I would say, like, the migration is a lot of it's a lot of decision making for sure. It and there's a lot of decisions you can't come back from. So uh, I would say slow down to go fast. That's the first thing. And I can go into a little bit of detail if you would like it, but essentially, like what Sumit has talked today about, moving it by an object, a lot of firms do that. It is like time to value is faster, like you time to market is faster when you do it. But it also means, as an organization, understanding, like, is this, what are the opportunities that come with this, right? Is it an opportunity to rethink the way we tag our whole site, and to kind of condense, clean up? So those kind of decisions come into play in the initial phase, and then you start building out your schema helps you define how your debugging experience looks like. It helps you understand over time how that nesting would look like when you want to pull out more variables. It also helps you decide whether you want to use. So in one of our implementations, we do not have any metrics. We use strings. Using strings, where, like, if anyone has used Tableau, they will, you know that you can convert a dimension into a metric. So we have done a total implementation where we've only used strings, and based on the string value, we are counting those instances. So it gives us so much of flexibility to create multiple metrics, and from the same dimension. So there is a lot of decision making on the in the approach you want to take, and where the overhead would lie. So there would be two different, I don't know how it is in many organizations, but a lot of decision making happens at the CJ implementation side, and then at the web SDK. And I'm only talking web data, I'm not even going into other data sets. So when you look at the web data alone, there's a lot of decision making that needs to happen, like, where would I do more work? Am I, if I have flexibility, can I do it in CJ versus can I do it in web SDK? So that's something to think about. I like, I'll just jump right into the last part, which is I'm putting together what have been some of the challenges of doing CJA. And for me, I would say, as a product admin, I work on the product side. I focus a lot on the site performance rather than channel and campaign. So my focus is site performance as well as product administration. So at the product admin side, there is a few more challenges, like say for example, this bot discussion. Like, you can't bulk upload bot rules. You have to set them up in a rule, and then you can use certain fields, and you can add the bot conditions over there, but you can't just bulk upload. The other one is IP obfuscation. We had a lot more flexibility in AA with IP obfuscation, which is not there today. Today, at the data stream level, you can either obfuscate all your country data, or you can not obfuscate it. Whereas in the product admin side in AA, we used to be able to choose countries, have that flexibility of which countries you want to obfuscate the last quartet of the IP, and to be compliant on GDPR. Then you've got decisions to make. Like, if that decision can be made there in the product admin, then now that decision has to be on the AEP side. So I collect the data, but do I do I now expose that data to the end user, right? So then it becomes like I'm collection versus access, and then is the your legal team okay with what option, right? So then you need to have that legal counsel to be reviewing some of your governance decisions and your policy data policy decisions. So those are some of the decision making side stuff, which becomes more of conversation and decisions that take a lot of time to help understand, first of all, as an analyst, and then to explain that to non analysts. It takes a while. So then you've created a lot of this work, and you need now to set up your data views based on your product tier which you have bought. You would have certain flexibilities and you wouldn't. So ours is one solution for our whole organization. So as an organization ID, we have a lot of guardrails that we need to constantly be careful about. We can't exhaust a lot of data views and connections, and how many data views we had in a connection. So those guardrails are something that you have to understand if you're going to go to CJA. So it's a steep learning curve. I mean, I have been close to the product from end of December last year. I'm still learning. I would say I just finished about 20% of learning. Uh, to be confident and to start implementing on different sites, there's a lot more to learn and a lot of more decisions to be made. So if you're not part of the decision making, then you need to understand and learn and document who made those decisions and how that affects the data that you are seeing. So it's not so straightforward. Like if I see something in a debugger, I'm not going to see that same thing in CJA. Someone has to do an ETL on that data, set up the attribution, set up the persistence, and then you would see that in your CJA data view. So if you're seeing certain wonky data, it could be that whoever set up your CJ implementation, they forgot to set the persistence. So it's not like in AA when you can just go, and if you make an evar, it persists, and you have one or two participation metrics or one or two serialized metrics. It's not like that. It's like every variable you have to set what kind of persistence you want, and every metric you have to set the attribution as well. So that's kind of some of the challenges. It's if you love Adobe Analytics, you love implementing CJ. It gives you a lot of flexibility. But if you don't have a big team, you are new to CJA, then you would need to start learning a lot about the basic concepts of Adobe Analytics itself. Those will be challenged. Even the marketing channel processing rules, there is no marketing channel processing rules UI. You have to create a derived field and set up your own marketing channel rules. So it's not very straightforward that way. So I think for someone using only web data and then moving it over to CJA, you would need to learn a lot of these aspects. If you treat just the data as just another data set, and all your other data sets are just joining together, then it's super powerful. But if you go into depth in your own web data, and you would see some parity that you would need to set up, and that overhead remains with the CJ implementation lead. I've spoken way too much. I'm going to pause here if there were any specific questions. But yeah, I mean, this is that comes to the top of my mind, like when we have been setting up the product and the CJ data views.
Oh, that was awesome. Thank you, Deb.
Yep. Yeah, I think we are good if there are no new other questions. Oh, Ramraj has a question. Why current industry are exploring CJA? Oh yeah, I should give a quick mention of it. We have certain teams who are more advanced, who have already started connecting other data sources with CJA. This is if you treat CJA as just if you treat Adobe Analytics as just one data set, and now you have the capability to add multiple data sets together and and the time to value is pretty fast in that sense, right? Like, not just, if you keep aside the whole web SDK implementation and your CJ implementation for your web data, uh, and all the standard metrics that you do not have access to, and you have to create all your standard metrics again on your own. You don't have out of the box metrics, very few out of the box metrics. If you keep that all aside and you just think of it like as a BI tool, and the flexibility and the way you can look at data sets so in such a short time, and the kind of overhead that everyone were maintaining to keep Power BI dashboards and omni-channel dashboards outside, you reduce a lot of that effort. Like, if I wanted a Power BI dashboard that was huge, or a Tableau dashboard that's huge, and I want to make a quick change on that, I just want to add one more dimension or one more metric, it means I have to wait for a sprint. I have to wait for that data to be updated in my data warehouse reports or in my APIs and all of that. You don't need any of that overhead now. You can just make your own dashboard in CJA with those data sets, and the power of that, I is amazing. When you don't need to wait for a whole sprint to just see one additional metric in your dashboard.
Yeah, just wanted to add to Dave's point. Yeah, exactly. For omni-channel reporting, and like she mentioned, we can get rid of traditional data warehousing or all those Power BI, Tableau effort, and do it easily in customer journey analytics. But also, wanted to point out it's not just omni-channel thing, because if today, for example, in your Adobe Analytics report, you have something broken. Let's say your page URL is messed up, and
Oh yeah.
in order to fix it in Adobe Analytics, either you need to use Saint classification or rely on some on fixing. Ask your dev team to fix it. But in Customer Journey Analytics, you can do it on the fly. You can exclude, include value. You can override on the fly, like you can do with derived fill, for example. But also you can apply a lot of filter and to clean up on the way on the fly for your Customer Journey Analytics. So it's not just the omni channel, but just that you have unlimited dimensions. You are not limited to 75 props or 100 evas like that. You have unlimited dimensions which you can use. On top of that, lot of derived fill you can do. You can change the you can make a dimension to a metric. You can make a metric to a dimension, which is not possible in Adobe Analytics. So for online just web data also, you can do a lot of things in Customer Journey Analytics, which is true. I'm not saying like Adobe Analytics is an it's lagging behind. But there are these points. If you want to
Yeah.
consider all these points for, then yes, CGA is a better solution and the future of analytics. I think we have a comment from Bjorn also.
The other day that replaced a dynamic ID value. Result was 50,000 lines cut to 5 lines. Yeah.
Wow, excellent. That's excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good use case. There is a lot of like with the, I mean, I mentioned marketing channel rules, right? Like, I can update them real time and see the data of retroactively as well. So it's like, I don't feel the need to create all my metrics in a QA environment, because I don't need to test everything, because I know I can see a lot of that in production and change the way I look. So like for me, site section, I did a derive field. Someone said the fifth position in the URL will take, and then they seen the results. It didn't have any value, so we changed it to the fourth position in the URL. So based on our folder structure, we kept changing, and then we found a value that works. And it's just a matter of seconds. You can see it in your preview in your derive field, and you can make a decision like that. So these are like small bits and pieces that help you get a lot of flexibility. And I think when you finish that steep learning curve and you've set up the majority of it, then you start enjoying the benefits of CJA. I would say that way. Okay. think that was it. If there's anything else, we always have experience leak, and most of us of the champions are on there and can answer many of those questions. This has been a great discussion, and if there are more questions, do reach out. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all for joining. Hope you
Thanks,
find it
guys.
useful.
Thanks everyone for joining. Bye.